I have one question.
Yeah, no worries, go ahead.
Am I properly pronounce this?
So Bushtin. Bushtin?
Bushtin?
Phnom Penh. Yeah. Sorry. Summative, I'm cool. No worries. So I'll click on this. 9 minutes, 9:20 seconds. I'll wrap it up. I'll be writing down some stuff, so don't worry about that. It's all super positive. At the end, I'll ask a couple of questions. Those will be just related to some fantastic stuff you said before, so I can get a deeper answer, and we can increase that result on this. Sometime soon, I'll tell you to check your manage back. There'll be all sorts of stuff written there. There'll equally be a link to this. Go back, watch it, look at the comments. So whenever you all ready, you go right ahead.
All right, so starting off with some background information. Duffy had a friend, which was a war photographer, and through this, she decided to explore the job and its whole context by writing a poem on the life of a war photographer. Now, the thesis of this is I'll be exploring the main character of war photographer and how they are presented through imagery, characterization, and internal conflict. Now, the structure of the poem is we have a set rhyme scheme of rhyming couplets, and we have 4 stanzas composed of 6 verses each. Now, firstly, the title, war photographer. It is a descriptive role of a job in society, and this also connects with the 2 worlds which the character continuously shifts between. So, in his dark room, he is finally alone. Here now, the character is finally alone from the violence and the war outside. And this could also represent his own mind, that he's now alone in his mind and he's able to concentrate in a calm and quiet environment. With spools of suffering set out in ordered rows. Now, the spools of suffering are the photo rolls, which resemble all the soldiers that suffered and are now deceased from the battlefield, set out in ordered rows. Now here he organizes the roles of the images of the soldiers, and these roles could also be symbolic for a cemetery. The only light is red and softly glows. Now here the only light is red. This light is used for developing images, but it's also again symbolic for the fact that right now in his mind he's only seeing red, which he saw on the battlefield, and this is a metaphor for the blood which was spilled by all of the soldiers. As though this were a church and he a priest preparing to intone a mass. Now the photographer here is compared to a priest, and his developing room is compared to a church. And this is because the photographer himself and the priest both witness death. Belfast, Beirut, Phnom Penh, all flesh is grass. So over here we have short sentences, and these are all names of the countries where all the soldiers died in. All flesh is grass. This resembles the fact that now all the soldiers which are deceased on the battlefield are now part of the earth. He has a job to do. Solution slopping trees beneath the hands which do not tremble then, will sink to now. He has a job to do, and this shows that despite his mindset of being scared or contemplating the photography and his experience on the battlefield, he must remain focused on doing his job. Solutions often trace beneath his hands, which did not tremble then, though they seem to now. The solutions are sloppy because he is now shaking. He is having post-traumatic stress, And during the battlefield, when he was taking the photos, he was experiencing adrenaline, and thus his body did not recall or focus on the event at a certain time. Now, when he is alone, the memories and the emotions start coming back. Rural England, home again, ordinary pain, which simple weather can dispel. The fields which don't explode beneath the feet of running children in a nightmare heat. Again, this shows that now he is coming. He has returned home from the battlefield, developing the pictures in his hometown. Ordinary pain meaning that there are no or explosions, which will not take place in a regular society. People can get injured in normal ways. The fields which don't explode beneath the feet. This shows how this again puts out an imagery and a comparison between his hometown, which again could also represent the dark room he is finally alone in, his mind, rural England, compared to the battlefield that exemplifies or better yet amplifies violence. Children in a nightmare heat. Now that is imagery of all the children and horrors which are experienced there. Something is happening. A strange features faintly start to twist before his eyes, a half-formed ghost. This right here is a soldier, and now the image is being developed in the solutions. Half of the image is formed, and now we have the ghost, which represents the soldier himself which is deceased. He remembers the cries of the man's wife, how he sought approval without words to do what someone must, and how the blood stained into foreign dust. Now over here we have, he remembers the cries of the man's wife, and this could also tie in to the cries of the man himself on the battlefield. This may link to a sort of synthesia, which is how a certain sense may trigger a memory in the respective protagonist's mind. The blood staining into foreign dust, this resembles the fact that the man in the image died in a foreign country. 100 agonies in black and white, from which his editor will pick out 5 or 6 for Sunday's supplement. Now, the 100 agonies in black and white is a powerful image that shows all of the suffering and agonizing pain which the soldiers have experienced, all captured in one frame, in 1 second of their life, and now characterizes their emotion and their feeling. From which his editor will pick out 5 or 6 for Sunday supplement. This shows that the editor nor the newspaper have not gone through the emotional the emotion which the photographer has gone through. They only care about a demo or just a small rack of images to showcase towards the audience, which are the people reading the newspaper. For this, they only want 5 or 6, and they don't care about the countless stories behind all of the soldiers themselves. Readers' eyeballs prick with tears between bath and pre-lunch beers. Now again, bath and pre-lunch beers in rural England shows how there is a calm environment. People are living their lives easily, and they are not aware nor caring of the horrors of war which are going on in other countries. Or what the soldiers are experiencing. The readers' eyeballs prick with tears between bath, yes. So this also resembles the fact that the readers will only care about this during a set amount of time, which then they will discard of the newspaper. From airplane, he stares impassively at where he earned a living, and they do not care. Now he's back on the plane. He will go back on the battlefield, and he earned a living, and they do not care. They, as in the audience, don't care about him, and he earns a living. This is ironic because he earns a living through war, which in turn takes the lives of others. Now, to conclude, Duffy explores the contrast between both worlds, which the photographer shifts from, which is warfare and society, and how this impacts him as a whole.
Okay. So you heard you a couple times say the audience and like not caring. So if Duffy is characterizing these people as not caring, what might be the larger theme she's trying to get at with the whole poem? Why is this important that these people are characterized as not caring, as you said?
The fact that these images are only presented just as a still frame in the shows that the audience themselves don't have any emotional experience as does the photographer. They are not fully aware of the horrors of war and the process of which they get to that image.
And how does that relate to our main character here?
Our main character, that shows maybe an internal conflict because right now it could show that he's fighting for something more than just following his job. He is trying to exert sort of feeling to the world of what he is experiencing and of the difference between this battlefield and society, the calm, rural England, and the battlefields where all flesh is now grass.
Cool. All right, so we're done. That's an acceptable time right there. How do you feel?
I feel pretty okay. I
Yeah.
covered the whole.
Pretty okay.
Maybe I could use some more extensive vocabulary.
Definitely. That's a premeditated thing. Like I said, I'll say always you get a little nervous, your vocab goes down, without a doubt. I think those questions actually worked. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know. I really wanted you to say apathy.
Apathy.
I mean, you kept saying don't care, and it's fine. But that apathy word is really kind of just really defines it. You finally got around to saying internal conflict. Because when I asked you the first question, your answer wasn't great because you kind of gave me like a logical answer, which isn't really an emotional thing that you didn't relate it back to our protagonist, which you could have easily tossed out as well, protagonist. So the questions work because you did finally get on that internal conflict and how their apathy affects him. Because you definitely talked about the external conflict affecting him, which is the obvious war photography and all the tragedies and whatnot. Equally with the questions, you kind of finally did this thing with your hands comparing his two environments, like the two worlds he lives in, rural England and the metaphorical symbolism that were, the whole middle class people who are detached from this other facet of life, and his job, which is the correspondence thing. So I'll write all on here, but real quick, you super things like, they'll always be listening to check off. It's like structure is 4 stanzas. Didn't hit it that. Super easy. Did you?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you talk about no set rhyme scheme?
Yeah.
You did? You sure?
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
I said that there was a rhyming couplets.
I got that.
And that it's composed of 4 stanzas with 6 verses each.
Why we have this conversation? Good for you. Did not address the title, like just as a title. I know even these titles seem so very obvious. She's like, do I make it obvious? Do I not make it obvious? So it would not be a whole lot of comment, but because of the poetry and all that, it's just something you have to do. Your thesis was all over the place. You said, here comes the thesis, which I'm not a big fan of, but in your case, it was necessary because if you hadn't said, here comes the thesis, I would have been like, did he have a thesis? And arguably you didn't. I mean, you kind of hit all the stuff there, but we really want it to be definitive because this is a thesis-driven thing. Your pacing wasn't bad for the first time, too, in all sincerity. There'll be people who are like, on minute 11 and not even close to finishing. So I put it on here roughly at 5 minutes and 20 seconds here at about what we could argue is about 48% of the poem. And you made an effort to speed up towards the end there, which isn't something you want to do, but it's good in terms. I think it adds to organization, just like this kid realizes he might be behind. Poor organizations, they just don't ever factor in time. And you did. So you were multitasking there, which was, I feel, is a good thing.
When I did the test run, I saw that I had spent about 2 minutes per stanza, and then when I saw the time here that it was 3 minutes.
Exactly. It's always different in proper game time. So, man, this is not bad at all. We could argue you missed some illusion in these sorts of things, like some key words. When you do definitely, the point is, you just want to destroy. You just want to completely overwhelm this thing. I know there's a word remain, like inundate this response with devices. The literary features is big because 10 points. So there are small things you could have just ticked off. The ones you dealt with, I thought you dealt with them well. Like the metaphor was properly explained. I thought that was fairly effective in terms of the red light, these sorts of things. But, just even the little ones, like the protagonist, our protagonist is a war photographer. You finally said internal conflict, which is simple but big. You mentioned imagery. I don't know if you really justified it. I don't know if you ever heard the word diction, which is a big one here, and you missed a couple of illusions. So the physical illusions to like those war-torn areas was also like a chronological time thing about when this guy would have worked, late 70s, 80s kind of thing. The all flesh is grass is a biblical illusion. There were a few other things in there. You could argue that the burning thing with the kids is an allusion to that classic napalm girl photo. There's a lot going on in this poem, so we could argue, well, it wasn't like you had any dead time. So I think what will help your grade is if you definitively, even if it's not a whole comment, like, if you get that simple protagonist, internal conflict, those sorts of things in there. You could have said juxtaposition at the end, you know what I'm saying? So it's like doing this, I feel, gets you points with criterion A because you understand the poem. Calling it juxtaposition and then having a little bit more detail about how juxtaposition affects that larger idea, which could be your apathy argument, which is probably what we're missing from the thesis, then you get more points in criterion B. So for first time, I'm really okay with this. I think you did well. What we will be talking about, and I'll say it so much, you'll be tired of hearing it. It's like, okay, now that you've done this and did a fairly successful first run with a poem, what's that going to look like with prose? Because the poem, it's like, I can study those 6 poems. I can know the 6 poems, but like, I got page 32. I think it's page 32. Yeah. I'm not sure who the he is on here. I know there's like only 4 male characters. That kind of thing. So confident you should be pleased with your performance. I am. So thanks, man. Good job. Run away. If you see the hookah guy in the hall, tell him to get his shisha self in here. Thank you.
So this will be on management?
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. Video, everything.
I keep this?
Yeah, you can put on the fridge. Tell your parents you got a 14 out of 7. What's up, man? What'd you get?
I got before your mind.
Ooh. Let me grab that real quick.
Yeah, see, use those tissues. But the cry bit.
Oh yeah.
All right, so you know how this works. Should have it. So I'll click on this. You'll talk for about 9 minutes. I'll be writing all sorts of good stuff down here. No worries. I'll be positive. At the end, I'll ask a couple questions. Be like, I got these, and it'll just hopefully increase some smart things you said before. Go in greater detail. You got any questions for me?
No.
No. All right. So I'm gonna click on this. Whenever you're ready.
So the poem I have, hello, my name is Hassan Shahab. The poem I have chosen is Before You Were Mine by the current British poet laureate Carol Ann Duffy. Now, Carol is originally of Scottish descent. She was born, and after a couple of years in her early childhood, she was moved from Scotland to England, where she proceeded to stay there for the rest of her childhood. And this sort of event has really affected her poetry and writing. She usually writes very dark poetry, but Before You Were Mine is one of her lighter ones, as it represents her mother her mother made black before the birth of Carol, on how she used to live her life and everything. And so Carol Ann Duffy utilizes the literary devices of internal conflict, characterization, and memory/imagery to convey the message of how having children can result the parents into losing their old and exciting life and replaced for a new and maternal one. One of the main literary devices first seen in the poem is characterization, as we are first introduced in line 1 to her mother. We can tell that this is Carol looking at a photograph, as she says, "I'm 10 years away from the corner you laugh on," as she has not been born yet. She is away from her mother. And the first piece of characterization is "you laugh on." This instantly tells us that Carol's mother, May Black, is a very vibrant and exciting individual, as she has fun with her friends, with your pals, as you can tell that she is quite a popular and exciting person. She bends from the waist, holding each other or your knees, and shriek at the pavement, and as seen in line 3 and 4, as to further emphasize on the whole idea of her being exciting and really enjoying her life and spending her late teens to early adulthood having fun like you are meant to do. She later alludes to her mother being very beautiful and iconic by representing her as Marilyn, who is known to be Marilyn Monroe, who in the 1950s was a sex icon, and all women wanted to be like her because she was so beautiful and talented and popular, just like Carol believes her mother to be before her own birth. In the second stanza, we are told that the thought of Carol herself has not even occurred to the character, as she is having fun and still dancing with her friends, as in the next line, line 7, it says, "In the ballroom with 1,000 eyes." Now this says that she's being watched with 1,000 eyes. That means this can have two meanings in terms of both characterization and metaphor, as 1,000 eyes means that she can turn heads, that she's very beautiful when people look at her. And 1,000 eyes can also mean that when she enters the room, she lights it up, both metaphorically, as she is the most exciting part of the room. We are further delved with her having an exciting life, as she is drinking champagne and having the movie Tomorrow's The Right Walk Home. So having those happy endings that movie could bring in her everyday life. We're told that she's very excited and very artistic, as she would dance all the time, especially at the ballroom. Then the title is re-mentioned in line 9 as "Before You Were Mine." Now, this second can represent what is about to happen to May Black, the mother of Carol, as she is about to lose her form of freedom, as followed after, it says, your mom stands close with a hiding for the late one, and she reckons it's worth it. So that means her mother is home, waiting for her to give her a form of discipline as she is late, and she reckons it's worth it. And because in the next stanza is the official birth of Carol and Duffy, and from there we switch on to the internal conflict, which is a large part of this poem. Now it says, in line 11 it says, the decade ahead of my loud and possessive yell. Now what this is meaning that Carol is very wanting baby as she keeps her mother close to her and doesn't want her to go away. This is slowly diminishing the old life that she had. And she ends that line with a rhetorical yet lovable question saying A, like in a form of apology as she is sorry for having taken away her mother's fun. The next line, it shows a mixture of both characterization and metaphor and slash imagery, as Carol is having her hands in the high-heeled red shoes. Now, the high-heeled red shoes are meant to be a part of her past, which are known to be beautiful and exciting, and she is literally having her hands in them as she is literally walking or crawling in her mother's shoes, which shows that Carol herself wants to follow in her mother, wants to follow her exciting and beautiful life. And then we are quickly hit with the word relics, which stands out completely as a solo word. Now, relics, this is meant to mean that they are old, they're ancient now, and as relics tend to be, they tend to be extremely old, hundreds to even thousands of years old. So this means it's dead. So that part of her life has been killed off because of Carol. The next line, we are suggested with more and more powerful imagery with internal conflict, as now her ghost, May Black, clatters towards me over George Square. Now this shows that that part of her life is dead, and George Square is located in Scotland, as where Carol visits more often. And over there she sees that the ghost, that her mother has left a mark. Ghosts tend to be invisible, but the noises that her ghost makes means that she has left a mark on that city, on that town, and how important it is for her and how much fun she had, and all that really left a sort of stain on the city. And in the next line, we are hit with clear as scent, which is a form of synesthesia, which is memory triggered from the scent. So over there, she can still smell her mother, smell everything that her mother has left behind to the world. And then the following metaphor is under the tree with its lights. Now this suggests that it's Christmas time, meaning it's, as it's known, it's to be the most beautiful time of the year, where everyone is happy and family are together. And this is what Carol wants. She wants her mother to be happy and having fun and to be together again. And then we are followed with a really strong characterization of the character by saying, and whose small bites on your neck, sweetheart, as she's seeing a photo or a memory of her mother with small bites on your neck, which are known as love bites or ickies, which is something in the 1950s was regarded as a very sexual thing and very intensified kissing, which is not very pleased and looked upon by society. And she uses the very simple yet very impactful word of sweetheart, which means, which is a word that most mothers use to their own daughter. So what she's saying is that she's being a mother to her own mother, as she's asking her, what are these love bites, even though they're not, she still wants her mother to have all those exciting and sexual and fun. In the final stanza, she goes with cha-cha-cha, which is a form of dance, which is very nice, romantic, very exciting dance, as it further characterizes the mother. In line 17 is a very powerful image and metaphor, and accompanied with internal conflict, as she's stamping stars from the wrong pavement, meaning that she is dancing on the wrong city. And by stamping stars, what she means is the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And that pavement is where celebrities and iconic people names are imprinted in cement forever. And she believes that her mother should be over there dancing in LA, having the time of her life, being a celebrity, and having her name imprinted on those. In line 18, she goes again to refer to she wants that bold girl winking in Portobello, where she's having fun everywhere back in Scotland before she was born. She wants all these amazing life back for her mom. And in the ending of line 19 and line 20, that glamorous love lasts where you sparkle and waltz, where it's saying that love is eternal, and she wants that back for her mother, where she can go back to her life of enjoying her dancing and her life and her glamorous occasions. And the poem ends with "Before You Were Mine," which is the original title. Now, in this ending, it's meant to have a very impactful and dramatic ending, as she has officially stated that she wants that life back for her mother, and she wants her to have fun and to enjoy everything all over again. So, in conclusion, Caroline Duffy utilizes the literary devices of internal conflict, characterization, and metaphor/imagery to convey the message of how having a child can result the parent into losing their old and exciting life, and how all of these are what really impact the parent and the mother, as this is intended for the audience of parents and children, mostly parents who may have had their life affected and turned over by the child itself. And so, as the speaker says, "Before you were mine," that further justifies the love and the reckoning that she wants back for her mother and for society.
Thanks. So, lose old exciting life for new maternal one. How does Duffy play into that losing? Oh, I know she's the reason why lost her exciting life and gained this maternal one. But as the author of the poem, to that, is that a positive thing? Is that a negative thing? Is that just what happens? Is there a level of guilt involved in any of this?
Well, the author does indeed feel guilty for having such a life taken away, as she constantly reminds the audience and the reader that she wants this life back, and she wants that guilt away from her, and she wants her mother to truly enjoy her life back as it was before the birth of Carol herself.
And in one of these, you mentioned the stanza kind of relates to some time, something that happened.
It's post World War II, 1950.
No, like you said, this stanza represents when this, like, after the birth of the author or something like that.
The second stanza.
Okay.
She restates the title in line 9,
There
saying "Before You Were Mine," to say that this to remind us that this was before her birth. But as you can see in the next, in the accompanying words and the next line, she is being disciplined by her mother, and the discipline itself shows a small loss of freedom, as her mother is taking control of her life and setting her on a straight path. And then in line 11, the birth of Carol comes in.
So that's what happens in those two stanzas. Chronologically, with this whole sort of narrative, what now do the first and last stanza represent in that sort of timeline?
Well, the first stanza is meant to represent the mother's exciting and beautiful life, and how it was very nice and beautiful and sensual, and she just really enjoyed herself with all her dancing and her friends. While the last line represents how the author itself wants that life back for her mother, as she's saying she didn't belong back in England, where she wasn't pursuing her career as a dancer and really loved enjoying her life, and how she says that life is what her mother truly deserves, not the maternal one she currently holds.
Okay. Cool. Good long. Those weren't easy questions. How'd you do?
I hope I did well.
Well, how do you feel?
I feel quite good about it.
You did well. You studied.
Yeah.
Thanks. So structurally, you did all this stuff. I mean, you could argue there's some things that are missing. thesis, this and that. You need to be more consistent with that line referencing. It is important. It does sort of suggest you know what you're doing. You know, someone shows up to the match dressed kind of fun. You're like habitually using the line references. Like this guy's done it a lot. He did it towards the end. So structurally, it was good. Could have done better addressing the title. We did get there, but it's like really sort of, even if it's an obvious thing, it's like, okay, think about why she really went with that and how that relates to your thesis. Thesis was effective. I just think if you had asked that guilt question verbatimly, it's probably a loaded question because I gave you the answer, but not a big deal. I probably wouldn't do that in a proper commentary. I kind of wanted that in a thesis, you know, because the thesis sort of just left the author out of it. So I felt you did pretty. You kind of got, and it's a difficult thing because you start looking at the criterion B stuff. So it's like it's much literary device, literary feature stuff you can just get in there. Good. Someone might argue it's like, well, you said metaphor a lot, which is fine because it was in your thesis. You said internal conflict more than once, and you said imagery more than once. You could have done a little better job, I think, with the why that is imagery. Imagery is a loaded thing. It's always there, but diction probably would have been something I would have liked to have heard. I don't think you addressed it. You might have talked about a couple words and this and that, but not verbatim with diction. And in terms of like purposeful word choice, you know, what was just you have it or not, you know, rhetorical, iconic, diminishing, not bad. You know, nostalgia, that kind of thing, you know, sort of faded, however you would go about that. So you could do a little better job about having some purposeful vocab for each of these. Better is like I have purposeful vocab is going to work for all 6 of these kind of thing. So you know the poem well, right? You didn't miss any one big thing. So you knew the illusion quite well. You picked up on all the key things. It's a pretty user-friendly poem. Don't know how we did with the ghost. That was one of the. She does that. It's all super like I could read this in grade 8 level, and then she has this one word which is like sort of like overtly poetic, and now it's kind of you can deal with it or you don't deal with it. And I don't know how you dealt with that. Yeah, so good, man. I think it's really well. I think it's a very user-friendly poem. And you scored well. If this is your first time, I'm really cool with that. I'll tell you the same thing I told him, and I'm going to say it many times. We start with this because it is the easiest. It's not a problem because you're going to get potentially one of these for your final. If you do, you're going to crush it. But now that it's like, okay, I know I can do this, and I'm going to go about it some more. How's this going to look when we start getting into the prose bit? That sort of thing. So with that criterion B, because I didn't really finish that idea. Didn't say speaker, didn't say hyperbole, could have addressed that second person.
I just address the speaker though.
You used the word speaker?
Yeah.
Oh, did you? My bad. Seriously?
Yeah, I remember because like I was
All
like,
right.
oh, got to address it, and I did address it.
Good. Got the chronological thing with the stanzas kind of you picked up there, but it is like she's looking at the photo, then there's this, and this last bit is like now she's a child, right? She's a thing, she's an entity. That weird Cynthia thing. Who's Cynthia?
No, it's not Cynthia. It's synthesia, like synesthesia. It's the memory triggers new
I
sense.
know you could have just, but you skipped simile in order to do that. It's literally, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you'd be surprised. It's like they're like, you know, you're trying too hard. Equally, when you start pulling that crap out, which I'm okay with because it is, I don't disagree with that. They're like, this kid found that someplace else. So sometimes it was what you did. If you did, good for you. I have no issues with that because that's why you picked these poems. You did research, studied, cool. But now it's like marked. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how would you know that? Literally, if you just left it as simile, everything you said, we could argue the Maryland thing. But sometimes when you start looking at emotion, illusion, it's sometimes better to be a little bit coy about it. It's like Marilyn Monroe, born 1940. You know, it's like you know everything about Marilyn Monroe, and it's like if you say it like you're confident and it is this, but not over the. I read this someplace else and regurgitating it. You somehow score better because you're like, assuming he did know that, but it's not like you're so obvious. I have this Cynthia thing, or it's like just say damn simile. So we've gotten to some good. So more of the internal conflict. Is there any rhyme scheme in this? If not,
no,
did you say it didn't have rhyme scheme? You need to.
Yeah, that got to address.
We always don't because it just doesn't. But it's like, all right, it's a poem, so I should probably address like how does it adhere to a poem? Stanzas. How many lines per stanza? It takes 2 seconds. No set rhyme scheme. Narrative poem deals with a story. Speaker, the audience is the speaker's mother. Using the second person with the you, right? Or intimacy, that kind of thing.
You want to keep this paper? Or?
You can put it on the fridge. Tell your parents you got a 14 out of a 7.
14 out of how much?
7.
I can't make you say 7.
No. You can say they don't know. You can tell your parents that.
14 out of 7.
Yeah. Okay.
How many points is this out of it?
Well, what always happens is the oral pieces, it's 10, 10, 5, 5. And then there's always an adjusted score, which means this many points is essentially 5, this is a 6, that sort of thing. So I think you did pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised. Get a high 5. Maybe even low 6. I gotta look at it. Good for you, dude. Go watch that basketball game. Hooligan it up.
That's fun.
Thank you, sir. Shukran Habibi.
Hakid Habibi.
How do you say have a nice day?
Tsalla Yom, which means have fun today.
Say it again.
Tsalla Yom.
Sandal
Tsalla
Yom.
Yeah.
Sandal Yom. I got it forever. Thank you.